Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Hannah Perdomo, and along with my classmate Daniel Portier, we are going to make an oral presentation regarding the way that the British culture history has both affected and influenced the decision of not fully joining the European Union and ultimately the Brexit situation. First off, I would like to clarify the meaning of the word Brexit. It is the name given to the United Kingdom's departure from the European Union, and it is a combination of the words Britain and exit. The Brexit took place on June 26 in 2016, when the UK held a referendum on which they decided to either leave or stay as a member within the European Union. And as a democratic outcome, 52% of the voters, around 52% of voters, decided to leave. Moving on, I will proceed to explain some of the ways in which Brexit has affected the current situation in the United Kingdom. First off, the UK economy is estimated to be 5.5% poorer now than it would have been if the UK had stayed within the European Union, and this was according to a study by the Center of European Reform. This sort of center, what it does is basically compare the UK's current performance with the counterfactual UK that did not leave the European Union. So as a result from that, this study showed that imports and exports of goods have been significantly hit, and so it was the investment. It is estimated that if the UK had stayed within the European Union, the tax revenues would have been about 4 million higher than they are today. So in order to sum it up, the Brexit had reduced the GDP of the United Kingdom by a 5.5%. The investment was reduced by an 11%, and the goods trade was reduced by 7%. All that in like the second quarter of 2022. Aside from that, the freedom of movement that the United Kingdom citizens used to be able to enjoy, for example, traveling from like one country to another within Europe, they could do that freely, but nowadays it has been entirely ceased. They can no longer enjoy of that sort of thing. They now also have to go to like special screenings for like UK citizens, just like any other citizen that is no longer part of the European Union. Aside from that, the country has found itself going through like a massive shortage of workers that could like execute yet and very simple needed jobs, like for example the transportation of food. There isn't enough workers that are capable of doing that right now. There's like a really big shortage. With that being said, I do believe that the British culture history has somehow played an important role when it came to the Brexit decision. Well, given that, despite the fact that the United Kingdom itself, it's been recognized for being an ethnically diverse nation, as well as a naturally multicultural country, where many people from like many communities from the world have decided to immigrate for centuries. And despite all that, there has always been a full lack of cultural identity. I completely believe that it's really hard for like most white British people to identify as British people, as well as it is for like people from other communities that have immigrated. Like there's a really big lack of like self-identity, like self-cultural identity and understanding of it, which has consequently ended up mobilizing the masses and dividing the citizens within the nation, both politically and socially wise. As a clear example of it, we could use the way that some people decided to vote for Brexit because of they believe that they might be able to protect their borders from the so-called immigrant invasion that was composed by like a majority of defenseless women, children, and families that came from like conflicted areas of the world like Africa, and whose lives had been found to be targeted, for which they decided to travel and seek to enter the UK after days of having mobilized themselves to like small little boats and going through like really merciless weathers. Another clear example of the lack of like cultural tolerance that has seemed to influence the choice making of British individual, according to like my perception, is that there's like a lot of misconception when it comes to like ethnic minorities, like Indian, Pakistanis, or like the so-called black Brits that are basically African descendant citizens. They're mostly the ones that are viewed as responsible for most of the crimes committed within the nation. And although like some statistical numbers support it, it has also been proved that such crimes and acts are completely unrelated to race. I mean, such offenders, have, according to them, descended from immigrants, or like at some point are still immigrants who had settled in like poorer areas and had also had poor social upbringing in overall. But like I am more certain, and I believe that we all may come to agree with the fact that as long as there is poverty, there will consequently be crimes, and most importantly, with that in mind, race and ethnicity are not to be held accountable as a relevant factor for like minorities to be targeted in such a way. So Brexit, in other words, according to me, was pretty much the lack of self-identity, self-cultural identity, and just like deep-rooted racism, because the politics are still really bad for immigrants. And well, British people no longer identify as British. If you are born in Britain, that doesn't mean you are British just because you were born there. You need to have like some sort of affiliation. You might have to feel either white or black, but like you're not gonna feel entirely British. So I entirely believe that the lack of cultural sense, the lack of cultural appropriation and knowledge about their culture has divided the country to the point where a choice like the Brexit has taken place. Because by the end of the day, the Brexit has somehow affected the country in like an economic way that at this point is irreversible if, in comparison to when they were part of the EU. So yes, this was my opinion. Thank you so much.
Hello everyone, my name is Daniel, and I'm going to share with you all my insights about the Brexit situation and this premise that was given for us to discuss about as a group. The topic was, how do we think that the British culture history has affected the decision of not fully joining the European Union and the results of the current Brexit situation? So I have to say that this question generated a conflict within the group. Honestly, because it sort of did not make any sense. We have our reasons to believe so, and don't be alarmed, we'll try to explain it to you all. That's the main purpose of the video. So let's start by saying, what does the Brexit word mean? Let's break it down. Brexit, it's a compounded word. It's formed by two words, Britain and exit. Britain and exit. So the whole thing pretty much means the exit of the Great Britain from the European Union. And it already implies that it was once part of the European Union. So it has nothing to do with not wanting to joining it, but they just decided not to continue in it. All right, so I have to say that I am more inclined to think of the colonizer British history as one of the main reasons the British decided to go for Brexit. Of course, not the only one, but you know, it has something to do with it. It had something to do with it, and that's my point of view. So, after watching so many videos and reading so many articles and interviews for politics and ordinary people, there is one phrase stuck in my head, and that is, let's make Britain great again. Tell me it does not ring a bell for you. I mean, First thing that comes to my head is the slogan, the 2016 Donald Trump's slogan for United States presidential campaign. Only that he said, "Let's make America great again." And I cannot help but think of xenophobia as a deep-rooted cause of this big fuss that Brexit has become. Of course, it's something that will not openly be admitted by many people in the Great Britain, but from my point of view, it's really attached to the whole thing. Well, on the other hand, I think they do have a point on wanting to claim back their sovereignty, and you know, being part of the European Union made it difficult for them to regulate certain politics, especially under border control. And there is, well, I have to highlight the fact that there is within the European Union, there is a European Council that run the whole thing. And there's even a president in the European Council. So what I mean by this is that all the presidents or head of states for these countries that are part of the European Union, they come together and come to agreements to define the general political direction for priorities on their countries. So matters or topics within the political, economic, social, and cultural fields are decided within this council. So then again, it made it difficult for the Great Britain by itself to regulate certain politics for them. And yes, there have been notorious impacts after the Brexit happened. Unfortunately, not positive ones, mostly in the British economy. Only a year post breakup, post Brexit, and I'm talking about it actually took place by the end of January 2020. Only 1 year post Brexit, important newspapers and economic websites reported a significant percentage decrease incomes related to importation and exportation, and well, of course, I have to say that the European Union on their website you can see clearly the European Union, it's the largest trade bloc in the world, and also the world biggest exporter of manufacture and good and services, and also the biggest import market for over 100 countries in the world. And I'm quoting one of these websites. They said that the British are becoming a solitary presence, an strange presence in the world, in the marketing, international market. Personally, I believe that's a tough statement to make. Um, well, what else to say regarding the universities? Of course, after Brexit happened, there are even less students in their universities in the Great Britain, and workers. There is a lack of workers in many fields over there. Um, One of them, I think it's vital to make mention of the health. Um, you know, mostly because we just had to deal with this horrible pandemic situation not so long ago, and you can't imagine how tough that could have been, not having the professional people, not having enough professional people to take care of those who needed it the most. It must have been tough. Um, Also, to conclude my ideas on this topic, a not less important fact that I wanted to share with you all is that this Brexit situation kind of took me back to the 2016 um, Colombian peace referendum, mainly because of all the misinformation through both processes. Um, I have to admit it, and then again, it's my perspective and the way I see these two separated war cases. But I just believe that there was so much ignorance uh, based on the citizens' decisions in both cases again. Um, well, that's what I think about this, and I don't know if maybe some of you think alike. And yeah, thank you for your time. See you around.